Dad traveled 5,000 miles to rescue his daughter, but what he discovered shocked everyone. For 3 years, John searched for his 13-year-old daughter, Sophia, who had vanished without a trace. The police claimed she was a runaway, but John never believed them. One day, he got a tip from an old friend who said Sophia had been taken across the border into cartel territory. With no one willing to help, John packed a bag and drove south, determined to find her. Days later, he reached a small town in Mexico known for cartel activity. Disguised as a taxi driver, he began asking quiet questions, slipping between dusty streets and watching every shadow. Then he saw her, through the barred window of a compound guarded by armed men. His heart pounded. Sophia was alive, but the danger was greater than he had imagined. What he did next was impossible to believe. Confused but determined, John waited until nightfall before returning to the compound. He stayed hidden in a narrow alley, watching the guards at the front gate. They stood under a single light, rifles slung over their shoulders. He waited, counting their movements, looking for the right moment. When two of them stepped away to smoke, John slipped through a side gate left slightly open. The air inside was damp and smelled of gasoline. Crates and barrels lined the yard, casting long shadows in the dim light. Every step felt heavy, but he kept moving, hugging the wall. He followed a dark hallway, his footsteps soft on the concrete. Somewhere ahead, faint voices echoed. At the end of the hall, a metal door stood slightly open. John pushed it just enough to see inside. The room was small and dim. Sophia sat on a cot, her head down. When she looked up, her eyes widened in shock. John stepped inside quickly. He placed a finger to his lips, telling her to stay quiet. With his pocket knife, he cut the rope around her wrists. Her hands trembled, but she stood and gripped his arm tightly. Without a word, they slipped out of the room, moving back the way he had come. Halfway down the hall, voices shouted behind them. The guards had seen them. John pulled Sophia into a narrow service corridor. At the far end, a single door waited. He pushed it open, and they stepped into the cold night air. In the yard, a motorcycle leaned against a fence. John ran to it, tearing at the wires under the handlebars until the engine roared to life. Sophia climbed on behind him, wrapping her arms around his waist. Gunshots cracked through the air. Dust rose behind them as John sped toward the open desert. The wind stung their faces. Rocks and dry bushes blurred past as the motorcycle bounced on the uneven ground. Every turn felt like it could be their last. For hours, they rode through the darkness, the glow of the compound fading far behind. At last, the first light of morning touched the horizon. They crossed into safer ground, far from the reach of the cartel. John stopped near an abandoned building. Sophia slid off the bike and threw her arms around him. They stood there for a long time, both tired but alive.